the first one of these meetings we went to was in the Netherlands. And Jerry couldn't go until he was declassified. And so that meant
I was doing some secret
we
work with the Air Force. And
Okay.
they wouldn't allow me to
we
be with
missed
the
probably
cosmonauts.
the first 5 meetings of this group. He had helped organize it in the beginning, but then he was not allowed to go. So we went to the Netherlands, and it was wonderful. We just had an absolutely incredible time particularly with the Russians. Jerry and I just really resonated to these people. And on the last night, we had a big dinner, and the tables were round, and there were probably 10 people at each table. And they separated husbands and wives and astronauts and cosmonauts
And
all the way around the room. He was at a totally different table than
and
I was.
civilians too. There were lots of civilian people there.
And my dinner partner on my left was Vladimir Johnny Bekov, who at that time was the only space traveler who had been in space 4 times. And he was a huge national hero. And he was also very good looking, very charming, and he spoke a little bit of English, so we did real well during the dinner. I was scared to death, that I would be with somebody that we just...
You just stare at each other and
Yeah,
smile,
do
yeah.
anything. And so it was a lovely, charming evening. And at the end of it, people took their menus and signed them and passed them around the table.
Oh,
So you
cool.
sign
So
it, pass it to the right. So
Oh, that's so
when your menu
cool.
came back, you had everyone's signature.
So Johnny, which was his nickname, handed me his, and I wrote, "To the Paul Newman of the cosmonauts." And I passed it on. And it went
And so
around.
he didn't know until it came back to him?
It went to about 4 people, and finally it hit an American wife.
Oh, and shit.
And she looked up at me and she said, "You're not going to give this to him, are you?" And I said, "You bet your life I am." And it went around the table.
Oh my
Came
God,
to
that's
Johnny, and I
awesome.
just sat there, and he was silent, and then finally he looked at me and he said, "Who is Paul Newman?"
Oh my goodness.
And I said, "You don't know who Paul Newman is? I'll tell you what, when I get back home, I'm going to send you and Lydia," was his wife, she was charming too, a copy of a movie that Paul Newman is in called Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And then you will know who is Paul Newman. And so the next day was our final day, and we were having lunch in this Dutch windmill, and there was a center aisle, and then tables like this with maybe 8 people to a table, and they selected about 6 astronauts and cosmonauts and their wives to parade down the center aisle and sort of be the farewell of the party. And they gave each of the wives a huge bouquet of roses. And Johnny and Lydia were one of those. So they came to our table, and say the aisle is behind Bill, and I was sitting where...
Probably
No,
where
I was sitting where you
Barbara
are,
was
Barb.
saying, yeah.
And when he got to us, he looked at me and he stopped Lydia. And he pulled out a rose. And he leaned down and handed it to me and said, "You are very beautiful." And I said, "You found out who Paul Newman is."
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that a neat story?
That's a great story. Right in front of his wife.
Amazing.
That's